Hi guys, welcome back to Aisha's Academy. So in today's video, I'm going to be going through the Edexcel assessment materials that they've released for 2021. A lot of people have been asking questions on my Instagram page that I just want to briefly answer in regards to, will these be the questions that come up? No, these are just a collection of past paper questions, but some of them are from the 2020 papers, which you will not find the 2020 papers on the Edexcel website. So that's why they've released these. So the whole point of these is just to help you in regards to your revision. Unfortunately, they do not have mark schemes for these assessment materials, which is why I'm planning to go through as many of them as possible and post them on my YouTube channel to help you guys answer these questions when you're trying them out. So let's get right into it. Okay, so this is just basically how it would come up when you download it, and then it just comes up with the specific criteria. All right, so if we go on to question 1, it says 3m minus n plus 3m. So in regards to this question, it's about your BIDMAS or BODMAS if you've learned it. So addition is before subtraction. So you want to add the 3m's together. So that'll be 6m, and then take away the other 2m's. So that would leave you with 4m. Then if we look at part B, we've got 2 times n times p times 4. So remember, whenever you're simplifying, you're always collecting like terms. So we've got two numbers, so we're going to multiply them together. So 2 times 4 would give you 8. And then the n and the p, they can't really be simplified any further because they're both very different letters. So remember, in algebra, if you're multiplying letters, you squish them together. So your final answer would be 8np. And then having a look at question 2. So question 2 basically says that we have a sequence and it wants us to write down the next term. So this is how it should have actually been written out. So 2, 9, 16, 23. Okay, so in order to work out the next sequence, we first of all need to work out the difference between each term. So it's been added on 7 each time, which means the next term we need to add 7 onto 23, which would give us an answer of 30. And to explain how we got our answer, we added 7 onto the next term. So as long as you mentioned that you basically found that 7 was the number that was being added on consistently, that would be fine to get your mark. So then work out the 10th term of the sequence. So we've worked out what the 5th term is. So there's 2 ways that you could do this essentially. You could either work out what the nth term is, like the actual equation for the nth term, and then substitute n is 10, or you could just keep adding on 7 each time to get to the 10th. So either way is fine, whichever one's easiest for you. I'm going to go through the method of working out the nth term briefly. So the nth term is 7n, because we know the last 7n, and then n is 1, 2, and 3. So that's 7, 14, 21. And then we've got 2, the 9, the 16, and then working out the difference between the 7n and the actual sequence is minus 5 each time. So the nth term is 7n minus 5. If I'm working out the 10th term, then I'm substituting when n is 10. And so that would be 7 times 10, which is 70, minus 5, which is 65. And if you work out the other way, you should get the same answer. So we worked out that our 5th term was 30. 6, if you add 7, 37, add 7 onto that, 44, add 7 onto that, 51, add 7 onto that, 58, add 7 onto that to work out the 10th one, 65, and we still have the same answer. So going on to question 3a, if to solve this, so because we've got x plus x plus x, you've got the same letters, so we can collect them together. If you have 3 lots of x's, we also write that as 3x, so 3x is equal to 51. And then to rearrange this to work out what x is, you would divide both sides by 3, and you could use your calculator, and that would give you an answer of 17. And then part B, you've got y over 4 is equal to 3. So to work out what y is, we want to make y the subject. So we're going to times 4 by both sides. That would leave us with y is equal to 12. And then having a look at question 4, it wants us to write down the coordinates of point A and point B. So point A is here. So remember, with coordinates, you write your x value first, then your y value second. X comes before y in the alphabet. So then you would have 2, 3. And then same here with B. The x value is 0 and the y value is -1. Now, having a look at question 5a. So 5a says work out the output when the input is 8. So if my input is 8 and it says first bit is times 5, 8 times 5 is 40, and it says minus 2, 40 minus 2 is 38. And then it says work out the input when the output is 28. So now it's the other way around. So then my output is 28. 28. Now, to get from my input to my output, I multiply by 5 minus 2. So to go from output to input, so I'm just going to put the arrows the other way around. You would do the opposite. So if it's minus 2, it would be plus 2. And if it was times by 5, it would be divided by 5. Okay, so now in regards to this, if we did 28 plus 2, we would get 30. And then 30 divided by 5 would be 6. So that would help me to work out the input is 6. Okay, having a look at question 6. This actually, I don't remember what year this came up with. This is definitely from a past paper that is full online. So in regards to simplifying, remember collecting like terms. So there's no other number, so it's just going to be 10 on its ones. There's the 3c minus 7c, which would give you minus 4c. Then you got 5d plus d, which would be plus 6d. Then question 7, it says use the graph to change between stones and kilograms. So I'm just going to scroll down to the graph. So in this question, just straighten it up for you guys. Okay, so in this question, it says change 3 stones into kilograms. So literally all you would do is find where 3 stones is, draw a line up and across. We can see that that's hitting at about 19 kilograms. Then to change 80 kilograms to stone, you can't do the same methodology on this graph because the maximum number in kilograms is 70. So there are multiple ways of doing this, but the whole point is by working out at least one of the conversions, this would help you to work out what 80 kilograms is in stone. So one way that I'm going to do it is, if I zoom into the graph, I'm going to work out what 20 kilograms is in stone. So if I draw my line across and down, that's saying about 3.2, as each little square on the x-axis is representative of 0.2 stone. So then 20 kilograms is equal to 3.2 stone. So the reason why I use 20 is because I know that if I multiply 20 by 4, which is a nice number, that would give me to 80 kilograms, which is what I want. So whatever I do on one side, I have to do to the other. So 3.2 times 4 into your calculator would give you 12.8 stone. So you could have used any conversion. I could have worked out what 40 kilograms is and then times by 2. I could have worked out what 30 kilograms is and then convert that to work out what 80 kilograms is. It doesn't matter. It's just whichever conversion is more comfortable for you. And then question 8a, it says P is equal to 7R plus 3Q. So then it's given us values for R and Q and it wants us to substitute. So P is equal to, so if I'm substituting, 7R would be 7 times 5 instead. And then Q would be 3 times minus 4. So then 7 times 5 is 35. 3 times minus 4 is minus 12. So then 35 minus 12 is equal to 23. And then part B, it wants us to solve this. So whenever you see solve, you're basically trying to work out what the letter is equal to. So then to do that, we've got 14n is more than 11n plus 6. So I'm going to take away 11n on both sides. And that's going to leave me with 3 is greater than 6. So then n, to work out what n is, I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides. And then n would be greater than 2. Okay, so it's given us 6 graphs and it basically wants us to match certain equations with the graph numbers. So let's look at the first one. If it says y equals 2, any y equals graph means it's going to be a horizontal line that intersects the y-axis. So it would be this one in part D because it's intersecting the y-axis at 2, and that means that any point on that line, the x value will change, but the y value will always be 2. So it'll be D. And then y equals x means that whatever y is, x is at every point. So it's a positive gradient graph, so it would be F. As you can see here, when x is 2, y is 2. And then for the graph x plus y equals 2, there's many ways you can do this. One way of doing this is rearranging it. So rearrange it to make y as the subject, since that's what we tend to see graphs like. So that would be 2 minus x. So y equals 2 minus x. So because we have minus x, it tells us it's a negative gradient. We know negative gradients go downward slope. So the only ones that are downward slope are graph A and graph C. Now to determine which one it is, you would have to then have a look at them both. So if we have a look at graph C, when x is 2, y is minus 2. And so if we substitute those values, so when x is 2, and y is minus 2, then it will be minus 2 based on this equation. It will be minus 2 is equal to 2 minus 2, and minus 2 would be equal to 0, which is not correct because minus 2 is not equal to 0, so it can't be C. But if we have a look at A, at this point here, when x is 2 and y is 0, and we substitute that in, so y is 0, x is 2, 2 minus 2 is equal to 0. So it is most likely to be graph A. Okay, having a look at question 10, it says Ben is n years old, Chloe is twice as old as Ben, Dan is 5 years younger than Ben, and it says the total ages of Ben, Chloe, and Dan is represented by T years. So to do this, we're going to make a formula for all of them. So if Ben is n years, then Chloe is, so is your equal sign, twice as old as Ben, so that'll be 2n because Ben is represented as n. Then Dan is equal sign is 5 years younger than Ben, so that would be n, which is Ben's age, minus 5. So we know Ben, who is n, Chloe, who is 2n, and Dan, who is n minus 5, is equal to t years. So collect the like terms. So n plus 2n plus n is 4n, minus 5 equals t. So we know that the formula for t is 4n minus 5. Having a look at question 11, it says expand the brackets. So x on the outside would be multiplied by x on the inside, which is x squared. And then x times minus 4, which is minus 4. And then it wants us to factorize. So remember, we're factorizing, you're finding the common factor. So the common factor between 15y and minus 10 is 5. So it will be 5 bracket 3y minus 2. Because we found the common factor is 5, and then we basically divided both terms by 5. So 15y divided by 5 would be 3y, and minus 10 divided by 5 is minus 2. And then here it wants us to solve. Again, solving is working out what the letter is equal to as a numerical value. So then the first thing that we're going to do is expand the brackets. So 7 times f will be 7f. 7 times minus 5 would be minus 35, and that's equal to 28. Then we're going to add 35 to both sides. And so 7f would be equal to 63. So then to work out what f is, we're going to divide both sides by 7. And so that would leave us with an answer of 9. So f is equal to 9. So then to work out question 12, it says on the grid below, there's a graph. It wants us to draw the graph y equals 2x minus 5 for the values of x from minus 2 to 4. So before we draw on the graph, whenever it comes to these questions, you want to draw your table of values. So what I mean by that is, if it's in this question, they've given a range, which most of the time they do. It's just on some occasions they don't, so you have to create your own range. So they've given us the range of x values of minus 2 to 4. So literally, you're going to have to work out every value of y for when x is minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And by doing that, you're going to substitute the value of x's into the formula here. So for instance, if x is minus 2, y would be equal to, so 2 times minus 2 would be minus 4, minus 3, which would be minus 7. If x is equal to minus 1, y would be equal to 2 times minus 1, which is minus 2, minus 3, which is minus 5. If x is equal to 0, 2 times 0 is 0, so then y is just minus 3. And now, to help speed things up, if you notice the pattern, so I'm seeing, oh, it's adding 2 each time. So now rather than doing the whole substituting, I'm just going to add 2 each time, which would be minus 1, 1, 3, and then 5. Okay, so now that we've worked out these table of values, if I go down to the graph, so I'm going to try and make sure you guys can see the graph as well. So for instance, for the first point, it was when x is minus 2, y is minus 7. So then if I just zoom into the graph, so x is minus 2, y is 7, that point is there. And then you would literally use your table of values. So I'm just going to redraw it closer to the graph so you guys can see the points. Now I'm going to zoom in. Okay, somewhat better. So if x is minus 1, and then that would be minus 5, and then literally you're just going to plot all these points onto the graph. Now that you've done that, you want to, well, it should be a straight line. If you do notice that it's not following the same pattern, maybe you've accidentally worked out the wrong values, then try and recalculate again. So you should get a straight line passing through those points. Okay, question 13, it says here is a number line and it wants you to write down the inequality shown in the number line. So because you've got 2 points at either end and a line in the middle, this is a type of sandwich inequality. So with a sandwich inequality, you're going to have a number on one end and one on the other. The key is though, is that you need to also figure out whether it's going to be, for instance, with the more than equal to signs, is it going to be just more than on its own or more than or equal to? So to know whether it's or equal to, if it's got a colored dot, so like here where on minus 3 it's got a colored dot, then it will be as equal to minus 3 as well. But on the 1 it doesn't have the colored dot, which means it's not going to be equal to 1 as well. And that's basically how to make the sandwich inequality. Now in part B it says y, so y is more than 3, but it's less than or equal to 7, which means that the values of y is basically, if you draw a brief number line, if you don't understand this, from 3 to 7, you don't have a colored dot essentially on 3 because it's a more than sign but not equal to, but you do on 7. So these would be the values that it would land on. So then the ones that are really involved is these ones. So it would be 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, and then going on to question 14. So again, I'm just going to rewrite the sequence where they're more separated out. 28, and it wants us to find the nth term. So to find your nth term, the first thing is you want to find out the difference between each number in the sequence. And we can see that 5 is being added on each time. So whatever is being added on, take away on each time, is the number that we multiply by n. So now we know the first part of the sequence is 5n. But to work out the rest of it, what we're going to do is, so we're going to work out the values of 5n when n is equal to 1, 2, and 3. So when n is 1, 5, it would be 5. When n is 2, it would be 10, 15. Then we're going to use the original first 3 terms of the sequence, which was 3, 8, and 13, and see how we would get from 5n to the original terms in the sequence. So to 5 to 3, it's take away 2. From 10 to 8, it's minus 2 as well. And the same thing is minus 2. So because we can see they're all minus 2, the sequence would be 5n minus 2. And that would be your nth term. Okay, so moving on to question 15. So it says simplify p squared, and then it's got the to the power of 5 on the outside. So whenever you've got that, you basically need to multiply the powers, so it'll be p to the power of 10. And then to simplify this now for part B, again, you want to simplify the like terms. So look at the two numbers. So you've got 12 divided by 6, which is 2. Then you've got x to the 7 divided by x to the 3. And whenever you divide inequalities, not inequalities, sorry, whenever you divide into these, aka powers, you take away from the powers. So then it would be x to the power of 7 minus 3, and we know 7 minus 3 is 4. And we're going to do the same for the y's. So it's going to be y cubed divided by y. That's the same as saying y 3 minus 1, and then y would be squared. So then moving on to question 16, it says the line L is shown on the grid, and it wants us to find the equation of L. So in terms of finding an equation of a straight line, the first thing is that you want to work out the gradient. So you want to pick 2 points. So I know the difference between the y's of those points is you've added 3, and the x's you've added 1. So to work out gradient, remember it's your change in y divided by a change in x. So 3 divided by 1 is 3. So my gradient is 3. So remember the equation of a straight line is y equals mx plus c, right? So then the m is equal to my gradient. So I now can say that y is equal to 3x plus c. But I need to work out what c is. So in order to work out what c is, I can substitute one of the coordinates that fall on the line into the equation that we have so far. So let's say if I pick this coordinate here, where x is 1 and y is minus 3. So minus 3 would be equal to 3 times 1 plus c. Minus 3 is equal to 3 plus c. So to work out what c is, I would take away 3 on both sides. And so that would be minus 3, which is minus 6. So my final equation of the straight line is y is equal to 3x minus 6. Then for question 7, it says make x the subject of the formula. So this is all about rearranging equations. So I'm going to rewrite the formula. So to make x the subject, we want to basically move everything over to the other side and leave x on its own. So then the first thing that we're going to move over is plus 4. And that would become minus 4. And then that would be y minus 4 is equal to 2x. Then here, remember, if you've got numbers and letters squished together in algebra, that means they're multiplying. So if it's times by 2 here, on the other side it becomes divide by 2, because that's the opposite of times. So it'll be y minus 4 over 2 is equal to x. Or another way some people can work this out, because people have learned different ways and different methods. I'm just showing you different methods to help whichever is best suited for you. So some people would do take away 4 on both sides. That'll be y minus 4 is equal to 2x. And some people will now do divide by 2 on both sides. So y minus 4 over 2 is equal to x. Either way, notice how we've got the same answer. So moving on to question 18. So question 18, it says solve the simultaneous equations. So in order to solve simultaneous equations, the first thing is that you either want to make the x's the same or the y the same. So in this case, I'm going to make the x's the same. I'm going to make them both have 5x. So to do that, I'm going to multiply the whole top equation by 5. So that would leave me with 5x plus 15y equals 60. Remember the whole top equation by 5. And then I've still got my 5x minus y equals 4. Now they're the same, take away the equations from each other, and by doing that, you can now eliminate the x's. So 15y minus y, remember 2 minuses together make a plus, so that will make 16y. And then 16 minus 4 is 56. Then now to work out what y is, you can either use your calculator or you can do it manually. So 56 divided by 16 would give you an answer of 3.5. Or you could write it as 3.5, or you could write it as 7 over 2. Either way is the same answer. So then now you know what y is, we can substitute that into into one of the equations. So I'm going to substitute into this equation because then I don't have to multiply by y by anything else. So less maths to do. So then 5x minus 3.5 is equal to 4. So then 5x would be equal to, so add 3.5 to both sides, that would be equal to 7.5. So x would be 7.5 divided by 5, which in your calculator, or if you want to do it manually, should leave you with an answer of 1.5. So we know the final answers for that are x was 1.5, y is 3.5. All again, write them as fractions. And that's the end of the Edexcel algebra assessment material. Thanks for watching, guys.